I would like to introduce our last panel, Powering Gender Equity for Refugees, Inspiring Stories and Solutions. I'd like to invite on stage our moderator, Dawn Stevenson, Senior International Programs Officer from Ashton.
Come up. Let's all come, yeah. We'll all come up. All right. Let's go for it. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this event. It's great to have everyone with us today, both in the room and the people that are joining online. This event's being live streamed, and it will also be available to watch back later. So for those who couldn't join us today, they can tune in and watch it then. My name is Dawn Stevenson. I'm from the UK, and I am the Senior International Programs Officer at Ashton. Ashton is an NGO whose mission is to accelerate transformative climate solutions. We are best known for the Ashton Awards, which support local innovators both in the UK and across the global south. And we support them through grants, storytelling, to shine a spotlight on what these innovators are doing and the impact that they're having, and connecting them with new partners. Our Ashton Award winners are bringing clean energy to villages and refugee settlements. We're equipping women and youth with green skills training and supporting communities to protect and restore the nature around them. Ashton also work with funders and policymakers to influence, inspire, and raise ambition. Today, we are talking about a very important topic: how the lack of access to energy affects the lives of refugees and displaced people around the world, and how it affects most acutely the lives of women and children. We will be talking about how refugees and affected communities are the experts on the challenges that they face and on what they need to be able to address those challenges. We will be talking also about how the international community of businesses, funders, and policymakers need to recognize this expertise and to take action now to support refugees and affected communities to scale up their solutions and the transformational impact that they are having on the ground. So I am honored to have here with me on stage today 3 very inspiring people, colleagues, and friends, to share with you their expertise, experiences, and insights on this challenge. We have, in the middle, Brian Onyango from Kenya, who is the founder and CEO of Usafi Green Energy, a brilliant clean cooking solution that is having extraordinary impact on the ground in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. To my left, we have Shaza Al-Rahawi from Syria, now based in Germany, a human rights activist, advocate, and the chairwoman of the Global Refugee-Led Network. And on the far left, we have Paula Acevedo from Honduras, a data analyst specialist at UNITAR's Global Platform for Action on Sustainable Energy in Displacement Settings, or GPA for short. We will be having a dialogue today exploring these issues and the opportunities that they bring before opening up to interact with you, the audience, at the end for questions. Before we start, I would like to set some context to this conversation with a few hard-hitting statistics. So as we all know, wars, conflict, poverty, persecution, and the devastating effects of climate change are creating more and more displacement. And right now, there are more than 110 million forcibly displaced people around the world. And this number is increasing every year. 94% of people living in refugee camps lack access to electricity. 94%. And 81% are at risk every day by polluting cooking stoves and fires. And these statistics are not just numbers. These are people, millions of people who are forced into darkness and risking their health every time they prepare a meal for their family. And this is why it's so important and so urgent that we back refugees, affected communities, local communities, with funding and support for their solutions. So, with this sobering facts in our minds, it is time that we dive in to what we can do about it. So first, Shaza, I would like to come to you to tell us about your experiences and your insights of how energy access affects refugees, but particularly women and children in refugee camps.
Thanks for inviting me today. I'm really happy to be with you guys. I would like to say it's not about only green energy. It's not about accessing to energy. It's more than this. When you think about it, it's a matter of protection. Protection of women from GBV, sexual gender-based violence. Why? Because mostly women are most responsible persons in the camps to bring and cook and do the food for the family. And when they are going to collect the wood to have the food ready, they have to walk miles and miles sometimes to bring that. Also, women and children, most of the time, which is, I saw it myself in Kakuma camp and Kiak 2 camp in Uganda, walking more than 10 kilometers to bring water. Can you imagine through this journey how many harassment, how many incidents of GBV can be hit while those doing this? Not only protection issue, children have to bring this water. Children have to bring this support for the family, so they have to escape the school. Where is the education rights? We need also to think about it. In addition to that, cooking, it's a health issue, because when you fire the fire for food, you will get a lot of gases, and all of these things can be hurt the children, they can be inhaled, and it's also a matter of health issue. In addition to that, the risk of being burned, because mostly people are in tent, which is mostly is plastic. So a little fire can be like a matter of a big incident. Also, nowadays, within the Corona time, if we remember that and hope it's not returned back, we notice that people are not able to go to their schools anymore, and everyone almost shift to be on internet or online. What about the internet and about the electricity? Those people in the camps suffer to have that. So many of people lost their works or the opportunities of education and works and all of that because of lacking of the energy. So I have here to mention, like, it's a bigger image. It's not about just accessing to the energy, but it's about accessing to protection, accessing to dignity, accessing to health issues. So I think it's a matter where we need to open our eyes and see how we can address it and engage the community to see what we can do better for them.
Thank you, Shaza. I know a lot of people, when they think about access to energy, they just think about electricity and maybe charging your phone, which is really important, of course, but I think that's a really important point that you brought up, that it actually affects so many different things, the intersectionality of this issue in terms of, security, cooking, light, power, and even job opportunities, training opportunities. It all hinges on energy access, so thank you for that. Before I come to our next panelist, Brian, we would like to show you a short video of Brian's extremely inspiring work with his organization, Usafi Green. This video was shot earlier this year when Usafi Green won the 2023 Ashton Award for powering refugees and displaced people.
Can a problem plant clean up cooking for refugees? Smoke from open cooking fires and polluting stoves kills millions of people every year. Refugees are among those in greatest danger. But in Kenya's Kakuma refugee camp, home to 250,000 refugees, Usafi Green are helping residents to manufacture a homegrown solution.
Basically, Usafi Green has 5 main issues that you're tackling or we're trying to mitigate. Number 1 is respiratory illness, whereby we provide clean and efficient cook stoves.
Locally made cooking stoves from Usafi Green Energy protect people's health, create jobs, and even help deal with invasive prosopis trees that dry out local land and harm cattle. Now communities can turn the nuisance plant into a useful fuel in the form of briquettes, which can be burned cleanly in their stoves. And with Usafi's free seedlings, they can play their part in reforestation.
We provide free seedlings. Our aim is to have one home, one seedlings policy of our intervention. So you can imagine from the 21,000 households, we aim to impact 21,000 households to have seedlings. So we are tackling the clean energy index problem and also the climate change, whereby we provide free seedlings so as to increase our forest cover.
Usafi Green are not only cleaning up cooking and restoring forests, they are providing employment opportunities which can be few and far between for refugees.
Life in Kakuma is not easy. As we, the host communities and the refugees, getting a job is not an easy task. You have to go through a lot to get a job. Usafi has created room for employment to make life easy to the community.
You must gain some trust to the refugees because these are people we understand they have come from a very dark side of the world. So for them to trust somebody, they need to trust your product, believe in you, and also engage with you with time. Also, we aim to reduce what we call the afternoon lessons, whereby young girls mostly miss because of being sent to go and fetch firewood. So we tend to use our distributor as a way of trying to have the product affordable and available near them. We need to empower women to earn something in the refugees and the host community in making the briquettes and also earning a living from it.
I'm proud of myself, of the job that we do here, how we have grown as a company, the jobs we have created. Yeah, I'm proud of everything on the company.
I'm proud of making a change in my community and also supporting the refugees because personally I'm passionate of trying to create a change. My aim is to target close to 100,000 households in the refugees and the host communities by 2026. Create employment through training more women within the host community and the refugees.
I'm seeing opportunities ahead. I'm gaining knowledge. I'm interacting with different people. I'm learning their ways of living. I'm learning things here that I can see in the future I'll be able to be a different person. Yes.
What amazing work, Brian. And I'd like to ask you now, can you tell us the story about how you came to start Usafi Green? I love that story. And also about how Usafi Green's work is impacting the lives of refugees, and particularly women in Kakuma.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, my first entrance in refugee settlement was back in 2018 when my former employer sent me to the Kakuma refugee camp to go and sell the cook stoves, just to sell, right? And being there physically, I saw there was a lot of distress, people stressed. The level of concentration towards clean energy was close to non-existence. And there was so huge gap when it comes to clean cooking. So I shared the recommendation to my boss that in 2018, and having a different boss with a different vision on a profit basis, is so there was no market availability in that area. So he did pull out. So it really touched me. And unfortunately, again in 2019, a different company came on board and requested my expertise to go again to the Kakuma camp with the same model of trying to provide or offer clean cooking solution to the refugees. But then the price of this particular commodity was extremely exorbitant, way above the refugee could afford. So I shared the recommendation to my boss that we need to find on how we can impact these people before we think of maybe making money from them. So we need to think on how we can first elevate them from this poverty level of lack of access to clean cooking. And again, in 2019, they pulled out. So that made me to think twice that, okay, I need to now personally take an action plan. So during those 2 previous years, I was onboarded with an organization called SNV, and I approached them personally and told them, hi, I've been here for the last 2 years, and I feel I might not have a full solution, but I have an idea I would like to try to help solve the current problem. And from there is when now we engaged on a small MOU, and they were willing to fund what the idea I had. And now in 2020, I shifted from living in Nairobi, which is one of the richest capital city in Kenya, and now I went to live with the refugees in one of the poorest towns in Kenya. So because I wanted to have a feel of the pain, what what are they passing through, how are they living their daily lives. So through that, I was able to customize their need. I came up with the model of now the cook stove that you have seen is called Silver Bora, is our brand, based on how they can afford the product. And through this, I had managed to get some partners who are able to kind of support a bit of what I was doing. Yeah, and from 2020, there we go. 3 years down the line, we have impacted almost 21,000 households with clean cooking. As you can see on the video, we have empowered 35 direct employment, with 60% being women, as you can see on the video. And our aim is to do the 100,000 by 2026, because these are the solutions we seek to address. First, we need to think on the impact, then the other things will follow. Yeah.
Wow, incredible ambition there. That's amazing. And Brian spoke about, in the story of how he created Usafi, he was talking about the importance of knowing people's experiences on the ground, having that information, having that data available to underpin his solution. And so on that, I'd like to come to Paula, who is a data specialist, as I mentioned. And Paula, can you talk to us a little about this need for data in displacement settings, and also in including displaced people in research?
Hi, yes. Well, from the work in the GPA, we have identified that there needs to be a shift from looking at energy access as a luxury, but more as a basic need, because this enables different things like better quality of life, access to opportunities for the displaced people in these locations. And one of the largest challenges has been the quality of data we have. And there's so much that we don't know, so much that we don't have information up to date of what's happening in these locations. And even though this work has been done for so long, there's no common framework of what data is collected in the different locations. So we have reports on one country with maybe the percentage of usage of charcoal and firewood for cooking, and on the other one it's separate percentage of firewood, percentage of charcoal. So there's no common framework of this data that's collected. So we need to first double down on the research. We need to have this common framework. We need to know what's happening, and we need to know what data is relevant, because we cannot be just gathering data and then figuring it out 1 year later that that's not the data you needed. So for that, we need to include the displaced people that are on the places, and they are on site, and they know what data is needed, and they know what solutions are needed in these places. And so it needs to be a work with the displaced people, the affected communities, to know what is needed. And that way we can have long duration solutions, we can have better solutions that work for the people.
Thank you for that. I have one question that I'd like to ask all of you from your very different perspectives, different backgrounds, different experiences. Knowing that refugees and affected communities have the expertise in this area, what can we do to recenter the role of refugees in humanitarian solutions and to boost their skills and innovation?
Okay, I will start. Yeah. Thanks for that question, because actually I think there is a lot to be done. First of all, to recenter, if we can say, the role of those affected community, changing the approaches that we are using now which is looking at those people that are vulnerable, people need to be supported, people has nothing or hopeless, like cannot do anything, to just see them as an agent of action, agent of change. So what I think, first of all, we need, if we want to change, to bring those people in the heart of discussions, join them and integrate them as a partner, equal partner. Second, education. And I here need to just echo my colleagues and especially Safi program about trainings on the education, either education in the curriculum. We need to have something about climate so children can grow up with information about why it's important, what's going on, but also vocational training about how to better access the energy, what we can do, which kind of clean energy can we use and why and how and what important of it. Third, I can say it's giving like the perspective of women, because women mostly, the more person who do the job, the more person who will be excluded from any discussions. So what we need to do is bringing the women to the discussion, ask them, if you feel like they didn't know, you know what, they didn't know, they are just busy cooking or whatever, let them know. Let them know and listen to them. They didn't want to be a perfect English speakers. It's not here about Shakespeare. It's about the knowledge. They know, I remember we grew up with our grandma just using the recycling, but we couldn't use it, the recycling term at that time, but all of them do recycling. All of them do amazing job to protect the community, the climate and the environment, but we just didn't have a look about this. So encouraging those women-led organization or women in the community to bring them to the actions, let them that their work is amazing, they can just move forward, supporting them, giving them the opportunity, let them be heard. I think this is some of things, in addition of the financing, but maybe I keep it for later.
We'll come back definitely to the financing later, but
yeah.
That was really, really powerful point. It reminds me of, so I went to a different panel on displaced people and what they're doing to lead the action on loss and damage earlier this week in COP. And there's another very powerful refugee voice called Joelle Hangi, who works in the same organization as Paula in UNITAR GPA. And she said on this panel, she said, don't treat us as people without capacity or without agency. We are the creators of our resilience. And I think that's exactly what you said in there as well, and it's a really powerful point. But Brian, back to you on what you think about this topic as well.
Yeah, actually Shaza has nailed it, because if you view a refugee, these are people with brilliant ideas. Only a different person might see them as a refugee. So what needs to be done is very simple. Equip them with skills, right? Let them own the skills. Then that skill will be replicated amongst them, so that we don't just view them as people who need food, people who just need shelter. Then that's it. Then if you feel we want to be repatriated, you will be supported. If you feel that you want to be repatriated to UK, hands up. We need to change that model. These people also need to earn a living. Remember, they have been forcibly displaced. They used to live maybe a luxurious life or maybe a brilliant life, but now they have been born into a very difficult life. So what do you do to such person in that instant? You need to keep him with skills, or her, especially to women, because at the end of the day, these are one of the greatest people trying to create an impact in the refugee settlement. Because if you support a woman, then you have already supported a household. That's the key thing. And for us, we have actually invented what we call the Energy Hub Center. That's our next plan in next year, to kind of train them, equip them with skills. We have so many partners doing solar in the refugee camp, but no one is doing the after sale. What happens if your solar is worn out? So we are there to speak on their behalf. We'll speak with Sunkin, B-Box, and introduce them to our energy hub centers. Then we tell them, now train these people so that you don't need to send your representative. Let them go and do the after sale on our behalf. Talk of waste management in the refugee settlement. There's no definite disposal. So if you train them those aspects, offer them with clean cooking skills, they will be able to do by themselves, earn a living, earn some money. And that's all they are asking for. They also need to make money on their own. They don't need to ask everything. So trying to adapt through training and skills is a way of elevating a community. A community cannot grow with being helped year in, year out. But if you keep them with skills, they can be on their own. Yeah.
I feel like I want to take little things that you said, things that Shaza said, and put them all as main page headlines on newspapers, because you're both very, very eloquent about that. And Paula, what do you think about this?
I'm going to speak from my youth perspective, from being one of the youngest, if not the youngest person in the GPA. Usually I advocate a lot for inclusion of youth from the Global South in decision making, in policy making, and speaking specifically of energy access in displacement settings, I feel like the youth have a great role to play. And speaking a little bit about one of the programs we have in the GPA, the READS program, it stands for Roadmaps for Energy Access in Displacement Settings. One of the things I really like about this program is that they include young researchers from the country. So they're developing country-specific reports for different topics of energy access in each country, and they include young people that are in the country to develop research for the country. So that is one example of someone including young people on the research in each of the locations. And I feel like learning by doing is something I always speak about. We need to create skills on the young people in these refugee camps, in these displacement locations. And learning by doing is something I always say, making them lead research, making them come up with these reports, help in these reports. It's a great way for them to not only learn skills, but put them into practice, have a printed thing that they can see, you know, and they can also have these skills for next jobs, because sometimes the job posting is the first barrier, because the requirements are the barrier for young people to access to these jobs. So helping them, including them from the start, so they have these skills for next jobs and next research for these displacement settings is a great way to do it.
Yeah, that's so important. So not only are we talking about agency and inclusivity, we're talking about real participation here as well, and not just saying, oh, we've sent you a survey response, now you're included in this process. Real skills, training, true participation, I think that's really important. So thank you for mentioning that. So I want to come on to the barriers. So you've started talking about the different barriers that refugee and affected community innovators are facing when wanting to fund and scale up their solutions. So we've talked about participation. I'd love to know from all of you again, what can different actors in the international community do? So what can businesses, investors, philanthropy, policymakers do to meet the needs of solutions on the ground? Like Usafi, perhaps Brian, will start with you. And then Shaza and Paula, we can talk about any other barriers as well that you want to add.
Actually, the only solution is to create an enabling environment. This applies to the national government in various respective countries, because we have refugees across different countries. And like in Tanzania, you find that the refugees are not allowed to do business, which is something not good. But in Kenya, they're allowed even to make money. We have good people making money in refugees. So trying to create an enabling environment, already you are elevating such community. As well, engaging with partners like UNHCR, NRC, DRC, SNV on different aspects, because we have a lot of organizations within the refugee camp with different SDGs interventions. So you just need to tailor down your need to which SDG you are into, then kind of have a partner, and this partner must be willing to work with either private partners, individual activists, or even the government, and also the refugees themselves. Because if we partner, all of us will work towards a very good common goal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, also as a woman, sometimes there is a lot of barriers that stop us. Let's say about the cultural barriers. Like if you are affected community or you are like whatever, if you are local or refugee, mostly women are the one who is isolated and not like given the opportunity. So I will mention here one of the good example and good practices how we are just overcome the barriers. So I think it's an Ashton Award lady, Iman. She's from Yemen, and in a very conservative community there, women were not allowed to do any entrepreneurship, or it's not common to do so. But what I'm coming to is like financing, like because she got the money and the opportunity and the funding, she started her job where she also trying to engage more women. So she's doing changing of the narrative of the culture, if we can say, where women can be seen as an active person, entrepreneur, having businesses and so on and so forth. This is one example. The other example is also one of the barriers that we see it is the language barriers, applying for proposals. It's all difficult, communicated, reporting back. It's so like northern, western approaches, if we can say, where like we are suffers to learn all of this because we are as a local community, hardly we can afford our normal needs. So it's not always the good education is there. So we're not always been having the English or other languages. We are not always like aware about the kind of reporting, which is sometimes taking a lot of the fund just to go and do kind of reporting from someone professional. So again, the money will go to somewhere else. So I think easing this kind of process, accepting, coming to the ground, please, as a private sector and other partners and governments, if you would like to invest and have win-win situation, go to the ground, see the people, see what they have exactly, because seriously, sometimes you have a lot of proposal, but it's not written in the way that might be scanned the first hand, and then coming to the final shortlisting, so we can see it. So from the beginning, it will be just excluded, but it's really might be amazing. So I think this is something we need to work on. In addition to that, also, I think it's important to like open the eye about that good practices that might be duplicated somewhere else. And I like the Ashton Awards because we had as a GRN a partnership with the Ashton, and we create the Ashton GRN Award for Displacement or Affected Community, where we try to have different languages for the application. We easing this process. We just try to bring more people and more lights on those who is really actually doing the job. Accountability, I want to finish with this. Accountability is something else. Seriously, accountability is upside down from our perspective, or from, not me as a refugee, from the Western and donors and governments. They are afraid to give some small amount of money for people because they might be risky, but those people, they do amazing job without any money. And I couldn't understand the middleman in the between. A lot of money you given just because you are afraid of those people, so you give it for middleman and many other people in between, and hardly we got anything for the local people who do the amazing job. So I think also we need to think about this as well.
Yeah. Give her a round of applause for that. You tell them. You tell everyone. And Paula, I know that the THEA program, that GPA are working on. Ashton are also a partner on it, and there's a whole coalition of incredible partners working on the THEA program, which is transforming humanitarian energy access, which is addressing a lot of these barriers with your holistic approach. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, speaking about the inclusivity strategic outlook that was published a couple days ago, and about the THEA program as well, it gives several recommendations of inclusion of displaced people in different sectors, and I'm going to speak of a couple of them. So it approaches changes in two areas, in two angles. So the first one is changes in the humanitarian sector, so including displaced people, at least 10% of the workforce of the humanitarian sector. So including the displaced people in the solutions, as we have spoken, not only in this panel, but in many panels. So I think this is key to have sustainable solutions, and including them in policy as well, research and innovation, so engaging refugee-led organizations in the research on site, and also including displaced people in the policy cycle, not only in the creation, but also in the implementation of these policies. And enabling partnerships for displaced people, refugee-led organizations. So develop policies that will enable more partnerships with refugee-led organizations and company-owned and led enterprises companies, as Brian. And systemic change, we need to acknowledge and learn about biases, about labels and stereotypes when speaking about displacement settings, and we need to promote the right terminologies when speaking of displacement settings. And also in investments, including displaced people in every level of management, in every level of implementation, when speaking of displacement settings, when speaking of deploying the solutions in the country.
Thank you. I feel like some of these terms and these ideas are really coming through so strongly throughout this whole conversation. Participation, real inclusion, training, skills, direct financing, not going through middlemen, but direct communication and financing there. So that's super interesting. We've only got just less than 5 minutes left. So I'd really like to invite anyone from the audience that has a burning question to ask it. And if you do, I'd like you to keep it to a couple of sentences because we're pressed for time. Any burning questions? Oh, we have one at the back.
Thank you. My name is Brian Omenyi from Kenya. My question is, what role does lack of policy or the policies in place played to hinder gender equity or promote gender equity?
I couldn't understand the question. Yeah, it is really. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question good, but now it's okay. So it is important to have this AGD approach, like age and gender and diversity, and also linked with a holistic approach or intersectionality as well, because in general, there is nothing working alone. So cannot say people working on climate are just doing their work alone without having displaced people, because the climate affecting the community to have displacement. So you cannot working and having policies on displacement without having displacement people. And among this displaced community, there is many different needs, different groups, and the gender is really important, because if I had LGBTIQ, if he is just seek a refuge in some countries, he will lose the money, he will lose his work, maybe he will lose, or even women. So those people are harder for them to find jobs somewhere else. For women, it's harder for women with hijab, for example, to be accepted in some communities, so they will lacking the opportunities as the normal people. Like, it's additional barriers, like layers and layers of barriers. If LGBTIQ might be not even accepted, so thus not only suffering because they couldn't have a work, but they will be also stigmatized. Children might be need something else. We didn't hear about this. We need to have those people together as a policy makers and hear from them. Maybe they have the solutions because they know their problems better than anyone else. So that's why I think it's important to have the gender equality, or like gender, even the gender injustice is something we need to talk about it as well.
Yeah. Another round of applause for you. Brilliant. Do we have any more questions? We have one in the front. Yes.
Hello, my name is Safa. I'm a GRN intern. Actually, I think everyone would like to ask this question today. What is the takeaway from COP this year?
Yeah,
That's it.
that's a good question. I think everyone can ask that, like key takeaways and key asks that you've come with as well, for sure.
For me, key takeaway COP number one is a win for the Global South. When it comes to loss and damage fund, actually it has materialized because this particular fund, we needed it most down to the Global South because we lack resources. So having this particular approval, number one, is a win for us. Then number two, another key takeaway is that I've been able to meet key partners, key stakeholders when it comes to involvement in humanitarian context, whereby we have harmonized so much discussion. In fact, I would like to thank GPA. There's a document you can check online, the READS document. First one was done in Uganda. Then in July, they came to Kenya, which we participated as private sector. It's there online. And the other day, they launched another one for Rwanda. Yeah, so such documents are very more important, but through involving everyone. So coming to COP is more of also sharing another additional ideas whereby we can interact and copy notes from across the globe.
Echoing a little bit on what Brian said, the loss and damage fund approval is extremely needed, and one thing we need to do is follow this further after COP, because we need to see where this money goes and that it is actually going to the communities that it's intended to, and also meeting people and speaking with people and learning from people is key during COP, and learning that many people from the Global South are experiencing the same challenges than other countries is so important. Meeting people from Central America, from Latin America, in my case, being from Honduras, has been so important here at COP, because we can, as a region, be stronger together. And I feel like that's also needed in displacement settings. Collaborate and know people from other places that are working on the same thing, so we can have stronger solutions, we can have better solutions for the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my takeaway, it's exactly as my colleagues already shared. I will add something in addition to that. Yes, in such spaces, networking and all of these things is really amazing, but what I saw, that everyone nowadays advocating for more meaningful participation for affected community. And I'm really looking forward to see how that might be in a practice after the COP. It's just not to be tokenized and just checking the box. And if we would like to have it exactly the right way, I think we need to move from invitation only to have more people can attend in this such platforms, and having more female, which is, I like it. I saw a little bit more numbers of displaced people, or like representative from affected community this year, and there is a lot of female. I hope I can see next COP with more numbers and percentages of those affected community in a even in the decision-making rooms, not only in this kind of platform, just side events and so on and so forth. So I hope, but there is a little bit shift from the last one to this one, and I can see the hope in the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen, more inclusion in this COP in Dubai, but we need to keep pushing for more and more. I would also love to see that next year in the decision-making seats. Yeah. We want to see refugees, displaced people, people from marginalized communities all over the Global South, for sure. Now, just before we finish the session, we have a young ambassador from the Global Refugee-Led Network called Karam, who would like to give you a couple of takeaways to take away with you today. Karam, do you want to come up here and... Great, and you can take the microphone.
Hi, my name is Karam Al-Rihawi. I'm 6 years old.
Hi, Karam. Yeah.
I want to tell you something. Did you know that our planet needs us? Because it's getting hotter and the oceans are getting sad. The animals are losing their homes.
It's true.
We need to help protect the earth by using less water and less plastic.
That's true.
Now we have to work together. So we can get stronger.
So true, Karam.
No.
That was amazing, Karam. Thank you so much. Let's have a big hand for Karam. Thank you. What an amazing young man. We'll see him back here in 10 years, 15 years as one of the new young UNFCCC ambassadors for sure. Thank you, Karam. And please can we have another hand for all of our amazing panelists. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. And if anybody wants to connect and hear more about any of the solutions that you've seen here today or heard here today or about the THEA program, then just please come and speak to us afterwards or drop us an email, a message, and we'd love to talk to you about it. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your COP.